Welcome to part two. The final portion of your lecture on water and waste continues now. A heat pump water heater will take any excess heat from the air in a hot place like a kitchen near a stove or some sort of generator and uses it to heat the water. It dehumidifies the air in the process and only uses about 1/3 the amount of energy as a standard water heater. But obviously, these could only be used in specialized situations. This is the most common type of water heater used. It's called a storage tank water heater. And residential and small commercial buildings will use these. They're generally centrally located, so the water doesn't have to travel very far distances. And will come in 20 to 80 gallon capacities. Some may use gas or propane or some sort of fuel to keep it heated, or others can use electricity. If you have a gas bill, it's likely because your water heater is heated through natural gas. Now, these are considered probably the least efficient way to heat the water, because basically what's happening is all this water is being continually heated when it's not necessarily being used. So if you ever run out of hot water in your house, it's because you've emptied this tank and it has to be refilled again. So you can imagine that most of the day you're not using hot water and yet it's still being heated and stored. Not very efficient. Now, the tankless water heaters are considered to be some of the most efficient on the market. And basically, they heat the water as it's needed, as it's being used. And you can use these. Some examples are called InstaHot. You can use these at various fixtures in your building. And again, you never run out of hot water. An indirect water heater will use a boiler or a furnace as a heat source. So it sort of doubles up on the energy that you're already using maybe to heat the air. And these can be fairly inexpensive and a low energy way to heat water. So here's a lot of information on how to keep a water heater more energy efficient. As I mentioned, they should be located centrally so that the less heat can be lost in long piping runs. And if they're located in a warmer area, they'll lose less heat. So if you have a mechanical room that's already maybe generating some heat, it's a good place to put a water heater. Heat traps can be installed on hot water and cold water taps or lines to conserve energy. Low flow shower heads and faucets and toilets can save not only on water heating, but water itself. And a hot water recirculation system is basically a series of pipes that continuously circulates the water between the water heater and the faucet. And now you may think that this will use a lot of energy, but what it does is keeps the water available instantly and can also kind of heat the interior environment of your home. If you use some kind of smart computer control, you can definitely save energy on your water heater. Maybe you turn it off when you don't need it and you turn it back on when you do. The movement of a fluid, because it's been heated, is called a thermosiphon. So hot water pipes are arranged in distribution trees, and then water is circulated through them using this thermosiphon principle. Basically, the water expands and becomes lighter as it's heated. Warm water rises to be used, and when it cools, it returns to the bottom of the tank. So if buildings are too low or too large for a thermosiphon, then a forced circulation method will be used. So now that you understand how a building gets a clean water supply, let's talk about how it removes waste. Waste plumbing, again, is a separate system, and all waste will be drained from a building using gravity. So again, if you have something a fixture that's placed below the sewer line, you're going to have to create some sort of mechanical way to get that waste to the sewer pipes. All sewer pipes in the city will run downhill. The underground sewer pipes can be made of clay tile, cast iron, copper, concrete, or some sort of plastic. Cast iron is typically used inside buildings. Because all pipes run downward at an angle, it may be difficult and expensive to add new plumbing fixtures into existing systems. So as an interior designer, you should be very careful about locating toilets. It's easiest to place a fixture on an exterior wall to allow for venting, But if the wall is not a 2x6 framing and it's CMU, then again you have to add drywall, and it must be furred out to fit a 6-inch pipe. You should also try locating plumbing walls back to back so that they can use the same draining system. And in larger buildings, the plumbing layout should be decided as early as possible. If you're doing a lone fixture like an executive bath, then the pipes will have to run horizontally to the main stack. Here's an example of back-to-back plumbing system. So you have bathrooms that share this plumbing wall. That way they only need to use one waste stack. Cleanouts are distributed throughout the system between the fixtures and the outside sewer. They're also required at the base of each stack and at certain directional changes. Cleanouts must have access for the maintenance room and the plumber to work, which may affect the interior design of the space. Here's a great diagram of a building's drain, waste, and vent system. Now the soil stack is the waste pipe that runs from the toilets to the building drain. The waste stack is the pipe that runs from the other fixtures like the sinks and the showers to the building drain. And then the building drain connects to the municipal sewer or the septic tank. So here you can see this is the building drain, the waste stack coming from the sinks, the soil stacks coming from the toilets, and then it heads down here, all using gravity, to the outside. A vent is required. So you'll see these little pipes sometimes sticking out of the roofs. The vent is required to ease the pressure of what's happening inside these pipes. Traps are sometimes used in certain buildings to prevent any undesirable materials from entering the sewer. The city can only handle so much waste, and if you dump a lot of grease into the sewer, for example, that's very difficult to clean. So a lot of times restaurants will use what's called a grease trap, and it keeps the grease from entering the system, and then they pay for a service for someone to come and clean the trap regularly. Now here is that vent that we were talking about, and here's an example of a fixture trap. So it's this bottom part here. What happens is it's very similar to what you see here, where the clean water will flow underneath, and then the grease or the soil or things will stay here. Now, every fixture must have a trap. Every fixture, meaning every toilet, every sink, every shower system. Every fixture must have a trap, and every trap must have a vent. Some fixtures have traps already included. Traps are used in waste plumbing to block the gas from backing up into the building. And in older homes, some may have used a drum trap in the bathtub. And that's why maybe you have some drainage problems, because they have to be regularly cleaned out. Traps keep the gases out, but vents must be added to relieve the pressure in the pipes created by the gas. These run up, connect together at some point in the building, and then poke through the roof. And they keep the air pressure in the system even and give the gas an opportunity to escape outdoors. If a sink is located in an island, there's no vertical wall for the vent pipe to run up. So in this case, a waste line has to run to a sump or a collection container in another location, and then is given a trap and a vent. Most of the solid waste comes from the kitchen, so having a recycling cabinet with possible easy outdoor access is a nice feature inside the space. Trash compactors are not really the greatest choice. They take up space, use energy, can emit odors, and require a grounded outlet. Garbage disposals must have adequate horsepower so they are more efficient, and also usually require a grounded outlet. An alternative to garbage disposals is the compost pile. It handles organic waste from the house and also yard waste, but no animal waste or meat, and can be contained in a self-contained unit. Once the garbage is decomposed, it can be used in the garden to fertilize the soil. So some of this pertains to you as an interior designer, but other parts of it are just for your information. Now, garbage bins located on the grounds of large buildings should be fenced to keep out animals and pests, and include recycling bins and possibly a compost pile for the landscaping. They should also allow easy access to the garbage trucks and consider the wind direction and noise control. There are 3 stages in the recycling process for large buildings. One, you, the designer, will include 3 separate trash bins near the employee work area, one for paper, one for compostables or mixed paper, and one for trash. The custodian then collects the separated waste from the bins, and then the carts are dumped into the appropriate larger bins that are then picked up by the city. So that's all for this week. Now go on and do your reading and write your 3 questions and journal entry.